And we're live.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to a very special edition of the Second Amendment Daily Show, your source for all things happening in gun politics, the state and federal level. And I'm going to tell you guys straight up, tonight's podcast is going to be tough for some people to hear. Tonight's podcast is going to be very focused on a real big threat facing gun owners right now across the state and across the country, rather. If you've ever given money to the NRA, you have to hear this podcast. If you've ever wondered why the NRA has such weak endorsements at the state and federal level, you have got to hear this podcast. And if you've ever wondered why so many Republicans in so many red states, not to mention blue states, are supporting deadly red flag gun seizure legislation, you've got to hear this podcast, because we're going to give you the dirty little secret. And that is that the NRA is aggressively supporting red flag gun seizure legislation for America. And folks, we're going to prove it with Chris Cox's own words later on tonight. Joined as always by my co-hosts, Patrick Parsons from Georgia Gun Owners down there in the Deep South, warmer than I am, no doubt. Got Chris Dorr, my brother, with Ohio Gun Owners in the office in Beaver Creek, Ohio, and Ben Dorr, my other brother involved in gun politics, up in sunny Minnesota, the offices of Minnesota Gun Rights.
How you doing, everybody?
You bet. So, again, this is going to be a heck of a show. I mean, I know for some people this may be old news, but I think for a lot of people, guys, I think a lot of people are going to maybe have a hard time with this, or perhaps really wonder if it's really this way. But we all know because we work in state capitals. We got what in this group right here. I work in Missouri. I work in Wisconsin a little bit, but mostly Wyoming, Missouri, Iowa, and there's a lot of red flags issues being talked about in these super red states. I know, Chris, you've been battling this for how long?
Yeah, we've been battling since March of this year. We've been battling this thing.
With a red state and a red governor pushing red flag gun seizure laws.
John Kasich, boo, right?
Exactly. A lot of people in Georgia, I know, talking about this or have been during session. Of course, Socialist Stacey Abrams would have happily signed this law into this bill into law if she had a chance. And in Minnesota, how many bill drafts have you guys had up there when it comes to red flag gun seizure legislation?
Several in each chamber every time.
Every year. So, guys, the purpose of this podcast, this will be the definitive video that you have to see about red flag gun seizure laws. We're gonna break this down again, what exactly we're talking about, and more importantly, the NRA's public support for these bills. Because here's how politics works. When you have a hardened anti-gun Democrat introduce a bill like this, you assume it's dead. And a lot of times it will be in a red state. But what's happening now more and more is Republicans introduce a bill that is, quote unquote, a little bit better. And that's how it's passing in states. Again, red states like Florida this year. Republican governor in Illinois signed it this year. Republican Governor Mitch Daniels a couple of years ago in Indiana signed this bill because the NRA is supporting this. We're going to break this down. That is the purpose of tonight's podcast. Anything, guys, we should add before we get going on this?
Don't think so. We got a lot of people from Minnesota checking on tonight. Guys, we just talked about red flags tonight, and I think I said that I think red flags is probably the most bipartisan gun control initiative that we've ever seen. You know, it's hard sometimes to get some Republicans to vote for universal background checks. Sometimes, not in Minnesota though, I'll say that. But as far as red flags goes, it's a bipartisan issue. Everybody wants this gun control.
And one thing I'd like to throw in here is that this is an issue that is not going away anytime soon. This is an issue that the gun control organizations, the gun confiscation organizations, they are all coalescing around this thing as the issue that they are going to use to drive through and break and get the camel's nose under the wall of the tent, because they have perceived such weakness in states all across America. So
Absolutely.
This is the issue facing gun owners for the foreseeable future.
If
Well,
you're
also-
in Iowa, you've been hearing from us for quite some time. Republican Speaker Pro Tem Matt Winchell pushing this bill. If you're watching in Wyoming with Wyoming gun owners, it is outgoing Governor Meade, Republican Governor Meade, who had sent his own staff to Colorado to sit with anti-gun legislators in Colorado to talk about how to draft this bill for Wyoming. So anywhere you are watching this video, I can assure you there are Republicans in your state right now talking about passing this bill in 2019. And that is the purpose of this video. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, I mean, just from a Georgia perspective, guys, I want everybody out here from Georgia, and I see y'all on there right now. We have never actually seen a red flag bill introduced at the Capitol in Atlanta. All the other guys that are on here tonight have fought them and seen them in their legislatures. We have never seen one. We will see one in January, and that is why, as Aaron led the show with, it's fact, and you're going to see the videos tonight of the NRA supporting red flag laws. So all of y'all out there, this is probably the most important Second Amendment video that you will see this year. So share this far and wide and get it out. You know, I'm already seeing some comments. If the NRA backs this, they will not get another cent from me. Butch says, get away from the NRA. This kind of crap is why I support local state groups like GGO. And on and on. Ellie says never remember the NRA. So anyways, go ahead, Aaron. I want to get to the videos here in a little bit. So we'll get to those here in a little while.
Yeah,
go ahead, Aaron.
We're doing that. I think first it's important that we kind of set the stage.
Yes.
And remind ourselves where we are as a gun rights movement, because we all remember the era of Barack Obama. It wasn't that long ago. We all know what it was like to look at your AR-15 every day and wonder, is this the day I have to choose between becoming an outlaw or giving up my guns? The guy came after everything: AR-15s, magazines, universal gun registration, the entire thing. It was a war from day one to the end of his 8 years. And we fought like dogs at the state level, at the federal level, and gun owners across the country gave an unprecedented level of money to the NRA to help stop Barack Obama. And everybody did so because we were scared. We should have been scared. The guy was doing everything he could. And I think we all remember how much support gun owners gave to make sure we did not have President Hillary Clinton. I mean, I thank God every morning when I wake up that I do not have President Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And gun owners bled out. You guys watching this podcast, you gave a fortune to ensure we did not have President Hillary Clinton, and to ensure that we had Republican-controlled pro-gun leaders in the House and Senate in Washington, D.C. And so we all woke up on election. Well, I never went to bed on election night. I couldn't get away from watching.
I didn't either.
But we all watched the news break then, 2:00 in the morning, that President Trump had won, and we had a Republican House, Republican Senate. And so for the first time in a while, we now had a chance to go on offense. And everybody woke up on November 7, and we're like, what is this new environment? We can actually, as gun owners, we can breathe a little bit. All of you folks like me who were so concerned for all those years, we could breathe, right? We could breathe because Trump won and we had Republicans in control. And I know we all thought we could maybe dare to dream, could we go on offense? Could we possibly go on offense in Washington?
An offense for most everybody, and myself included, was the idea of a national reciprocity bill.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
it would be nice to use my Ohio CHL or my Minnesota CHL or one of my CHLs to be able to go into another state where I don't have it and just get national reciprocity. That's what offense looked like. That was the first thing I thought of when I woke up. Aaron, I think it was on November 9. Not on November 7th.
Oh, I'm on the wrong cycle. You're right, November 9. Not bad.
Yeah,
That's right.
But a national reciprocity. That was the offense. I think that was tops on every gun owner's mind.
Everybody's mind. National reciprocity. That's the big push. Everybody knows it. And so we've had 2 years now, 2 years and a couple days, 2 years and a month, 2 years and a month today, since that day. And we had a chance to go on offense. And what happened? What happened? Gun owners have to ask the question, what did we get for our money?
Exactly.
What happened in Washington, D.C.? Did anybody see a push to pass national reciprocity? I don't mean, was there an email? I don't mean, was there a press release? I mean, was there a no holds barred, in your face, big guns being brought to bear, big money being spent in D.C. to pass national reciprocity? And we all know the answer. We all know the answer. The answer is absolutely not. All of that money, all of that energy, all of this 8 years of waiting for a chance to be on offense, squandered, wasted, betrayed for the last 2 years in Washington, D.C. But it gets a lot worse because, guys, we did see stuff happen in gun politics. What did we see? We didn't see national reciprocity.
Right. Instead of national reciprocity, I think what happened was Las Vegas happened. And that was literally the little spark that set off a gun control bomb that only exacerbated after the Parkland or the Sutherland Springs, Texas shooting, and then it went into the Parkland, Florida shooting. But then we saw them roll over on bump stocks.
I think a lot of people, maybe some of you guys, maybe some of us on this podcast here, the four of us, maybe initially. We're like, well, it's a bump stock. I personally, to my shame, I have 6 kids to feed, so I'm not that ashamed. But to my shame, don't own a bump stock. Never had one. I've shot some, but I've never owned one. Yeah. So I think a lot of gun owners might have had that impression. I don't own one. I'm never going to get one. I don't really care. And that's at best. And some might have thought these were bad items that should have been banned. But I think we all agree here that misses the point dramatically, because the issue is not the accessory. The issue is in demonizing accessories. And so when the NRA publicly came out, this would have been what, guys, early 2016, right after the big massacres that had taken place in Texas and in Las Vegas. More importantly, they came out and said, that's okay. We agree with banning the bump stocks. I know a lot of gun guys sat back and said, wait a minute. We're supposed to be on offense. How the hell do we find ourselves now watching the NRA, watching Chris Cox get up there and smugly telling the world that we're okay with giving up all of our momentum and we're okay with giving up bump stocks? Because, again, we know what's going to happen. Once these are illegal, and it's going to be done now in about 90 days, as we all know, once this happens, the next shooting – they're going to go for the next accessory and the next accessory. And maybe it's a collapsible stock. Maybe it's a flash suppressor. Maybe it's a 30-round magazine. Maybe it's a binary trigger. Whatever it is.
You give an inch, they take a mile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how my kids roll. That's how my kids roll. If my wife and I don't hold fast, they push and push and push. And obviously, it's no laughing matter with Michael Bloomberg, who spent $100 million in the midterms. These people, once they smell weakness, and there is so much weakness right now in the NRA, in state legislatures, and in the federal Congress, that they're going to run us ragged. So the first thing we all saw was bump stocks.
They didn't even have to pass the bump stock ban. All it took was for the NRA to cave on that issue, and all of a sudden you saw all this gun control happening. You saw Nancy Pelosi, you saw Dianne Feinstein, you saw all these press conferences happening. It was all national media. They didn't even have to fulfill the bump stock ban for this to become a national gun control issue on every issue.
Exactly. And guys, if you're getting tuned in right now and you're wondering what are we talking about, we're leading up to talk to you about the Red Flag Gun Seizure laws that are sweeping state capitals across the country right now. And the reason for it is because the NRA is openly, and we're going to show you videos here in a few minutes, openly backing these at the federal and state level. So first we have bump stocks, but that wasn't it. In this chance, this brief respite from 8 years of Obama tyranny, we had a chance to pass pro-gun bills. We also passed Fix NICS. The NRA comes out, right? This is after the mass shootings that have taken place. And the NRA comes out. And I think what's ironic to me is that Dianne Feinstein tried as hard as she could for 8 years under Obama. For 8 years. Even when they had the majority, she couldn't pass it. She couldn't pass it because at that time, the NRA was opposed to it. Yeah. They were opposed to it, and they couldn't pass it. But fast forward to 2017, 2018, and all of a sudden they come out publicly. Guys, you can Google it. Publicly saying we support fixed NICS, and that passed as well. Excuse me, guys, which is the largest takeover, the largest culmination of state and local databases, the largest gun database that we have ever had in this country. So that kind of brings us up. Go, Chris.
I want to break in right here. And since they have passed this fixed NICS stuff, there has been a massive expansion of people who are losing their firearms, their CHLs. You guys can read all about it. Just Google it. There's I think there was like 900 people now in the state of Florida because they're dumping all kinds of databases into this thing. If people were convicted as a teenager for pot, this stuff is getting rolled into here now, and people are getting notified. Turn in your CHLs.
Yep.
So, people are actually losing their firearms permits now because of fixed NICS. People who are law-abiding citizens who've been carrying firearms for years.
What I always find so funny, going back just a little bit, is freaking Wayne LaPierre and all these guys at the NRA during the presidential election, and I know we touched on this, but they were puffing their chests out, da-da-da-da-da-da, and then you literally, it's just 2 years later. I mean, just that soon, those guys totally flipped. You know what I'm saying? And, John, what made me think of it was John Chandler, this guy on our comments. He said the NRA is one of the original gun control organizations, and we're seeing that right now. That's what he said. So, they ask for your money during election season, and then they turn on you once they're safely in.
But again, guys, our primary focus here is the Red Flag Gun Seizure fight, which is happening right now across the country. So, again, that's kind of where we've been. We had 8 years of tyranny, 8 years of terror, 8 years of giving the NRA tons of money, a brief time there, again, to ensure we did not have President Hillary Clinton. And we all thought now is our chance to go on offense in 2017, 2018. We lost it all. We lost on fixed NICS. We lost on bump stocks. And now, earlier this year in 2018, the Parkland, Florida shooting happened, of course. Was it February? Was it Valentine's Day? Is that correct?
Yep.
In February of this year. And the NRA came out within a matter of weeks. Chris Cox came out with his video and demanded, arrogantly, smugly, stood there and demanded that Congress pass a federal red flag gun seizure bill. Before we discuss the clips, we got to break this down one last time. Chris, do you want to go through a very careful nuance, or should somebody else who has time? And guys, if you wonder why we're all fidgeting here, we're watching and trying to look at our comments and talk to you people, all of our state groups. We have folks watching in Wisconsin. And boy, if you're in Wisconsin, guys, get ready for a throwdown. Tony Evers is going to deliver hellfire for Bloomberg in Madison. That was a random sidetrack. So we're all watching our comments and trying to respond to our members.
Yeah, so we've got some trolls on here. I want to make sure you guys all stick with us here.
Troll alert.
As long as you can, because we're going to get to these videos here very shortly. We want you to see this stuff from their mouths. We're not just making this stuff up. We have video proof. We want to show this to you guys so you guys are armed with the truth and you can go out and better fight for your own Second Amendment freedoms. But I think Aaron had asked me to kind of give an overall now of what
we got to break down red flags so everybody knows.
Everybody's asking
what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody in Georgia is asking.
Red flags gun confiscation is what we're talking about here, and I'm gonna break it down for you a little bit. There's different variations of what red flags gun confiscation orders are. Like Aaron talked about a few minutes ago, they usually introduce the worst version and then they pare it back, hoping to get that version passed. So quite simply, it is the idea that somebody, your girlfriend, a boyfriend, your aunt, or something like that can
School
go.
Teachers, nurses, all kinds of people.
Yeah, mental health professionals, counselors, school teachers in some cases, that they can petition a court to have somebody else's firearms taken away from them. And in some cases, in the worst cases, they're done at ex parte hearings, in star chamber hearings, where the accused person or the person that they're trying to get the order against, they're not even allowed to be in that courtroom or in that hearing to defend themselves against the accusations being made against them. And in those cases, if the judge rules in the favor of the one person there who is making the accusation, knock, knock, knock at the door, they are there to take away your firearms. That's one scenario. Another scenario is they remove the ex parte hearings out of the entire process. And sometimes they constrict it so that only law enforcement can make the claim to a judge to try to have somebody's firearms taken away. Usually what happens in those scenarios is somebody who is, let's take, for example, somebody trying to gin up support for their divorce case. They can go to the law enforcement officer and say, oh, he did this or that. He did this or that to me. He threatened me this way. And what's going to happen there is the law enforcement officer is going to be the conduit for that person making the accusation. He doesn't want the liability. They'll go to the judge and they will still get the court order to take your firearms away from you. And understand, there has been no charges filed against you. There has been no court. There's been no hearing where you're able to defend yourself. There's been no conviction. There's no conviction, and you're having your firearms taken away from you. That is kind of the basis of what Red Flag's gun confiscation is. It is the destruction of due process, and it's a complete bastardization of that idea. Where
the very idea as Americans we cherish the concept of innocent until proven guilty. It's what our country was founded on. It's what we were founded on. Innocent, that the king could not just declare somebody guilty and throw them in the stockades. Yeah. And this totally, I didn't even cut you off, Chris, but this just totally destroys that. I think the underlying point again and again and again and again needs to be made over and over and over. It doesn't matter what variation. It doesn't matter who can file the complaint. It doesn't matter if you're there at the hearing or not. What matters is that you've never been arrested. You've never been charged. You've never been indicted. Yeah. You've never been convicted of anything. And yet you will, and hundreds and thousands across the country this year alone, thousands of Americans have had their guns stripped and seized from them because of this situation. And guys, we're going to discuss later on tonight the next level of red flags, what we're seeing right now in Washington State. We're going to pass on that for a little bit. But again, the purpose of this is to show you guys how much support this has in red states because of the National Rifle Association, who openly supports it. Guys, sure. Patrick, get video number 1 spooled up. We're going to get that going here in just a minute.
Get number one.
Guys, we're kind of new. We're kind of new guys at doing this kind of thing, so this might not be perfectly seamless, but you know what? We're going to do the best we can. All so right. What you're going to see here before we even get into it is Chris Cox, the head of NRA ILA. This runs their entire political program, giving this verbose, tough guy, very stiff-jawed, with very, patriotic music in the background, appeal to Congress and to the members of the NRA, asking them to support red flag gun seizure laws at the federal level in Washington, D.C. All right, Patrick, if we have it ready to go, I think we're ready to go here, guys.
Okay, Micah, play clip number 1.
We need to stop dangerous people before they act. So Congress should provide funding for states.
Like we said,
risk protection.
This is our first time doing this, so we got a little kink. Here we go.
Yeah, Micah, I didn't hear it.
It's coming. They should hear it.
Yeah, but I didn't hear it live when you were playing it.
It's going to go on Facebook.
Hold on a second, guys. Let's make sure that video played. Okay, it did.
So Congress should provide funding for states.
So we're talking about the fact he says here and telling us that Congress has to provide funding to do this so we can stop crime before it begins. This used to be a silly movie, right? Didn't we have Tom Cruise in this? We had a minority report movie, and the whole idea that you could stop crime and know it in advance and somehow, disarm people in advance was preposterous. But the NRA in this clip right here is actively saying we can find some way to stop crime before it begins, and that is the beginning of the end of due process. What blows me away, guys, is this is the same talking points that I've heard the Everytown for gun safety lobbyists make
It's crazy.
all across the country. They made this talking point verbatim in Missouri. They've made it in Ohio. Chris, you dealt with this for weeks down there. For weeks,
that's
for
just
months.
what is so aggravating is that I hear these same quotes from the what we call here in Ohio, because we got a lot of them. We call them the Bloomberg's Red Shirt Radical Lying Commie Mommy Brigade. We also call them Redcoats now.
We've got them here too.
Aaron, a few of the people here said that it was hard to hear. What was the quote that he had said just there?
I need someone to play it again.
Oh, sorry,
Micah, play video number 1 again. Give us a second here.
And folks, turn up your volume if you can.
Okay, go ahead, Micah.
We need to stop dangerous people before they act. So Congress should provide funding for states to adopt risk protection orders.
All right, we're back, guys. Go ahead and talk, guys. Go ahead and talk.
Sorry for the lag here, guys. So again, on the onset, they want to stop crime before it begins by, as you're going to hear in the next clip, disarming citizens of their firearms that have ever been convicted. Get ready. Clip number 2 ready to go, Patrick.
Get clip number 2 ready, Micah.
And you're not going to believe this. I wish we could hear it ourselves. I have no audio on my end, so I can't hear every single word. I know it from memory.
I'll let y'all know.
But if you guys check out clip number 2, Patrick, get it going.
Go ahead and play 2, Micah.
This can help prevent violent behavior before it turns into a tragedy. These laws allow a court to intervene and temporarily remove firearms when a person threatens violence to themselves or others.
And we're back. We're back, Aaron.
And again, guys,
what you said for us.
Yeah, recap it for the audience, Patrick.
I'm sorry, guys. I cannot hear it when it's playing here on our
What we're
back
talking
end.
about here, it comes across, if you hear Cox's video, like it's some kind of a gentle, unobtrusive, no big deal. Let's go and just take the guns. Let's just take the guns for now, and we can stop this violent crime. It's not some kind of a gentle process. It's not a gentle intervention. They're coming into your home, and we're going to discuss the case of Gary Willis in Maryland in just a few minutes here. They hit his door at 5:17 a.m. on November 5, 2018 to take his guns. He comes to the house, to the door with a gun in his hand, and they killed him. So this idea that we're going to have some kind of a very gentle, very genteel, knock, 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 we're here for your firearms, it's no big deal. You've not been arrested for anything. You haven't been indicted for anything.
Aaron, you've got law enforcement experience in your past. Why don't you kind of flesh out for us what this kind of looks like for for a criminal versus what you and I, what we everybody watching this video.
You mean when someone comes to your house like that?
Yeah.
I mean, when you, for law enforcement, it's very typical when you're going to do a high risk warrant, whether it's a fugitive warrant, for their arrest, or a search warrant and raiding a drug house or some kind of a flop house. When you hit a house like that, the criminals know how this works, and because they've been on the block before, they've been around the block before. And so they usually have about 3 choices. They can run, they can fight, or they can, as we always said, assume the position. Drop down, put your hands up, because they know that when a team comes like that, hitting the house in the middle of the night, like that, they're coming to take care of business. That's just the way it works. And so a criminal knows that if he draws a firearm, they're likely going to be shot. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
Every criminal knows that, but the people watching
that's way different than what you and I experience.
I know. The 4 of us and people watching this podcast, the 4 of us, if someone hits my house at 5:17 in the morning, the first thought I'm going to have, like I'm sure everybody else watching this video, is, holy cow, there's a home invasion in progress. It's happening right now. And my first action is going to grab my Glock 23 next to my bedside stand with my light underneath. And I'm going to rush out in the hall because my kid's bedroom is down the hall closer towards the front door of my house than my own bedroom. And what's going to happen? You're going to run down the hall.
you're going to grab that gun and you're going to try to get between whatever is possibly coming down that hall to your kid's bedroom.
Yeah, you're going to get shot, and you're going to get shot. That's how they're not going to come to your house at 10 a.m. with a bottle of lemonade in their hand and say, "Hey, bro, we're here for the guns. It's all cool." They're going to hear man with a gun who has just been issued a seizure order because somebody somewhere somehow claims you're a threat with a gun, and they're going to come, and they're not going to come and say please. So we need to hear clip number 3. This is perhaps the heart and soul of this podcast, guys. Clip number 3 is the big con. It's the big con. Micah or Patrick,
okay,
you can get clip 3 up and going.
Micah, clip number 3. This is the big con job from the NRA here. Here it goes, guys.
To be effective and constitutional, they should have strong due process protections and require that the person get treatment.
There it is, right out of Chris Cox's mouth.
Due process protections. They want you to believe. They're desperately trying. Patrick, make sure he can do the whole video top to bottom here in a few minutes. Find that clip as well, the whole video top to bottom. Right. They want us to believe. They want gun owners to be duped and fooled into backing this because they say, oh, don't worry, we're going to have due process. And Chris, this happened, I think, first in Ohio in terms of the big deal, the big compromise. It's happening right now in Iowa. It's happening right now in a bunch of red states. But explain what we mean by this, the big trade-off that they're trying to make.
I'm sorry, I was moderating some comments over here. You're going to have to.
What we're talking about here, guys, what they're doing is they're saying that because they take out the ex parte hearing, because they take out the ex parte portion of the bill, that all of a sudden that guarantees due process. In other words, if you're allowed to be at the hearing, well, then that's okay. That's okay, because we have taken away of the due process violations. That is insulting. That is embarrassing, and that is complete malfeasance. They're trying to dupe gun owners into actually supporting this crap, because the ultimate due process violation is not whether or not you're at the hearing. The ultimate due process violation is that you've had your guns taken away before you've had a day in court.
Do any of
That's
y'all
what Chris Cox is supporting. And you know, I find at the end of the video he said to paraphrase it,
don't jump the shark.
We and our 5 million members demand passage of this legislation.
I have not heard one, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I was about to say. I have not heard one person, one gun owner say, I support red flag laws. The only people I see are the red commie brigades up at the Capitol supporting this stuff. Has any gun owner out there heard of anyone who supports taking away your firearms without even a day in court, without a charge?
As somebody, we're in lame duck session here in Ohio right now, but as somebody who has been interfacing with hundreds of gun owners every day for the last several weeks straight, I mean hundreds every day, I have not had one single gun owner say, I think these red flag gun confiscation orders are a good idea, that they'll lower crime. Not even one. The only people who I've been hearing from or seeing advocate for this stuff are Bloomberg's redcoats. That's it. Nobody else.
So is the NRA in bed with Bloomberg, apparently? I mean, that's what it sounds like, right?
And we're going to get to that video clip in a few minutes. I think someone might have jumped ahead of the clip roll here. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes. But I think the underlying issue, the big issue here with the NRA, the big issue with Republican lawmakers right now in states like Wyoming, Iowa, Ohio. These are red states. The heck with the blue states. We know what's happening there. The big con job is what Chris Cox articulated. That is that if we just take out the ex parte hearings, it's all good. And they want gun owners, they want you and I to say, oh, well, yeah, I mean, they fixed it, so it's all good. And they want to snow you, and they want to just totally confuse gun owners into thinking that it's okay. And again, the anathema in this bill, the evil in this concept is not the hearings. It's the idea of having your guns stripped away from you by force before you've ever had a day in court, before you've ever gone before a judge, before you've ever been indicted, ever had a chance to go and make your own defense in a court of law. That is the linchpin that this entire concept relies on. And for Chris Cox to sit there and tell his members, tell you guys, the backbone of his organization, that it's okay because we've taken care of this issue is a lie. It's a lie.
And I just want to throw in there, I mean, you know, our job in gun rights is to advance and defend gun rights. We don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, anti-gun group, whatever. Our job is to defend the Second Amendment. Got a couple people on here going, you're just NRA bashing. No, what we're doing here is trying to make sure everybody knows the truth about who's pushing this stuff, both at the state and national level. We're here to defend gun rights. We're here to make sure our Second Amendment rights survive from generation to generation. And when every Town for Gun Safety is pushing this stuff, we expose them. When Moms Demand Action is pushing this stuff, we expose them. When the Democrats are pushing this stuff, we expose it. When the Republicans are pushing this stuff, we expose it. And when Chris Cox with the NRA is boldly demanding passage of radical red flags, gun seizure, gun control, we expose it. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Amen.
This is why it's passing in red states. If they would stand up there and say, absolutely not, over our dead body, will you support this? These bills would never get off the ground in red states, and that's the reason why. So let's get on to clip number 4. Get ready to go with that, Patrick. I'm not quite ready for it yet.
Okay.
But, guys, what you're going to hear this next clip is Cox totally choking on the talking points, the logic that we hear every day from Dianne Feinstein, you know, from Cory Booker, you know, from Michael Bloomberg, from Every Town for Gun Safety, and that is that we have to do something. We have to do this to deal with the culture of violence. Wow. I have heard that culture of violence concept and talking point, and I've read that in 100 emails, 500 emails in the last couple of years trying to explain away gun control.
Right.
And now we have to listen to Chris Cox use those same talking points that we have to be okay with this. We have to be okay with red flags. We have to be okay with no due process. We have to be okay with the end of innocence until proven guilty because we have to deal with the culture of violence. Patrick, if you can have him play clip number 4, that'd be great.
Okay, Micah, clip number 4. This is the NRA basically spewing Michael Bloomberg's talking points. Go ahead, Micah.
These proposals can be done right now. While they won't solve everything, they will help lead to a broader discussion on how to address a culture of violence in America.
There it is. There it was.
It's just weakness. It's just weakness. Again, don't forget where we are. This is 2018. This is our time to be on offense. All of the money that you guys have given, all of the phone calls that we have made, all of the work that we all did to keep Hillary Clinton out of the White House. This is our time to shine, our time to get back at Barack Obama's 8 years of tyranny. And we have to sit here and listen to this choke artist tell us that because of the culture of violence, we have to be okay with red flag gun seizure laws. It literally makes my blood boil to think about where we should be.
And don't think for a second. A lot of people have this question. Well, what do we do? What do we do when somebody is showing red flags? You know, what the heck? You know, what do we do at that point? Well, every state in America has laws already on the books that allow them where there are legitimate threats, where there can be evidence shown for them to go in and make that and make an arrest and take the guns away from that person. It happened here just a couple of months ago here in Ohio, where a couple of teenagers at 10 o'clock at night were making some threats, and under existing law, within 4 hours, their local county sheriff was able to do a quick investigation, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, that next morning, 4 hours later, those two kids were in jail. The firearms were in the sheriff's custody under existing laws. there has to be a burden of proof, a level of evidence that they have to achieve before they're allowed to do that. They cannot just do this on people's word. So existing law covers for this. That's the way it is in any state in America, under terroristic threats laws, under attempted assault,
stalking, all kinds of laws exist. And we probably should have clarified that in case it's not obvious that we're not advocating for criminally insane people to be carrying firearms. That's why we fight for gun rights, so we can drop that person dead in the shopping mall with her out there with her wife and kids. But Chris nailed it. I mean, every state has a construct in effect to go out there and arrest these people. You can detain them. We want officers to detain them. That's called a criminal investigation.
I hear that. Sorry, Aaron. I hear that more than anything else. And obviously, we don't support virtually any of the gun laws out there, but I hear that more than anything else is like enforce laws that are already on the books.
Yes.
You know.
Right.
Yes. Well, don't forget that the shooter in Florida was called in, but the local police were at his door 39 times in the couple years leading up to the shooting in Florida. The FBI, he had been turned into the FBI for making terroristic threats many times. The laws were on the books to stop him, and it didn't happen.
Hey, I've got a killer comment in my Georgia gun owners comment section. Rick says, "I own my dream home in Florida, but I'm moving back to Wyoming over the red flag issue." He's gone, heading back to Wyoming. From sunny South Florida back out to Wyoming.
What's his name?
He's in Georgia, so you may not see him, but Rick,
you should make sure and hook up with Wyoming gun owners. And more importantly, get a hold of Senator Anthony Bouchard. He is the guy in Cheyenne who was opposing this and exposed Governor Meade for his efforts to do this in 2018. So you want to make sure and get involved in that. I think some people are also I'm reading comments for the very first time. I have not had any time to watch my pages, so you trolls are going to get yours here in a little bit. But I'm getting this question over and over. Well, it's only a temporary seizure. It's only a temporary seizure. Look, there is no such thing as a temporary suspension of our constitutional rights. No. There is no such thing as a temporary destruction of innocent until proven guilty. First of all, it's usually a 6 month to a year long temporary hold.
And some of them have automatic renewals built right into them unless that person has disproven the original accusation in the meantime.
Does anybody out there actually believe that once you get on a list, you ever get off?
Yeah, exactly. For the folks in Missouri, we did a breakdown of Senate Bill 42 an hour ago in Missouri, and we showed the folks down there that the court on their own motion, having never heard from the petitioner, can automatically extend that seizure order based on their own idea of what the situation is. So whether or not the petitioner ever asks for it again, that's it. So there's no way in which a gun owner should be sitting here thinking, well, it's only temporary. That's only going to get worse. The last clip we have before the whole thing is done is going to it's Chris Cox's best effort to have all of us stand up there and snap to attention, and patriotic music comes into play. We put our heart in our chest and we stand there and say, well, yeah, I support that too. It's a shameless, ridiculous effort to make us, all of us grassroots gun owners out there think, well, yeah, I can support this too. You guys can play clip number 5, Patrick. That's the last clip here.
Micah, get number 5 teed up. Are we ready to go?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
We can take action and prevent violence and protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans at the same time. That's what the 5 million men and women of the NRA are committed to do, and we hope you'll join us in getting it done.
Trash.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
You get the full video queued up, Patrick, as well when you get a chance here now. So this is the whole thing. It's the end of due process. Calling on Congress to pass it using all of their resources, which is money you guys gave them. Stand back and say, well, of course we support this because we fixed the due process issues. And that's what all the members of the NRA, all the grassroots gun owners want. That's bullshit. Yeah. We talk to gun owners every single day on behalf of almost a dozen state level gun rights orgs that we all work in. And we know for an absolute certainty that they don't want that. But this is what lawmakers are saying right now in state capitals across the country as their justification for passing red flag gun seizure laws. And again, I'll say something blue in the face. We can't forget the 30,000-foot view. This was our time to be on offense. All the money we gave, all the support, all the doors that we knocked on as gun owners, all the phone calls we made to get a pro-gun majority in Congress, to get President Trump in the White House, to keep Clinton out in the street, all for nothing. All for nothing.
Crazy.
Because over the next short 2 years, they caved on bump stocks, they caved on fixed nicks, and way worse than both of those combined, perhaps, they caved in on red flag gun seizure laws, and we will pay the price for this for decades. Decades.
They're caving on it here at the outset. And like one of my good guys here in Ohio just commented, he said, wait, could this not be a federal red flag? Couldn't they not pass this at the federal level and have it apply to all the states? Dang well they could.
Of course.
That's what Chris Cox is talking about.
That's exactly what former Congressman, or almost just about to be former Congressman Eric Paulson from Minnesota. Eric Paulson is the main Republican who co-sponsored red flags gun seizures in Congress this year. It cost him his seat, by the way.
Yeah.
And again, this is impacting your red state. I don't care if you're watching in Pennsylvania. They just barely stopped this for now. I don't care if you're watching in Iowa. Representative Matt Winchell, Speaker Pro Tem, he runs the Iowa House. All over Iowa press saying he's going to do it, and he's going to fix due process and get it done. He's taking the talking points verbatim from Chris Cox. I don't care if you're watching in Ohio, at least until Kasich is gone. That's been a big issue in Ohio. Whatever
John
red
Kasich.
state you're in, Wyoming. I mean, This is a Longmire country. Think about this. Matt Mead literally sending his staff to Colorado. And everybody who's in Wyoming, we all know how this works out there. They hate people in Colorado because it's Colorado people who've come into Wyoming who've helped to ruin some of the best aspects of Wyoming. I was out there all session. I get that. Send his staff to Colorado to learn how to draft red flags. So if you're in a red state, this is being talked about in your state by your Republican leaders. If you're in a blue state, this is going to be a major fight in 2019. You had better believe it. Patrick, do we have the full clip ready to go here from top to bottom right now?
Micah, we got the full clip? Okay, we're ready to go with the full clip of Chris Cox from the NRA supporting red flag laws. Here we go, guys.
We need to stop dangerous people before they act. So Congress should provide funding for states to adopt risk protection orders. This can help prevent violent behavior before it turns into a tragedy. These laws allow a court to intervene and temporarily remove firearms when a person threatens violence to themselves or others. To be effective and constitutional, they should have strong due process protections and require that the person get treatment. These proposals can be done right now. While they won't solve everything, they will help lead to a broader discussion on how to address a culture of violence in America, which is desperately needed. There will always be evil in this world. That won't change. But we can change our response. We can take action and prevent violence and protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans at the same time. That's what the 5 million men and women of the NRA are committed to do, and we hope you'll join us in getting it done.
Well, there was old Chris right there, guys, talking about his support for red flag laws, right in his own words. Don't believe us? Watch the video.
Yeah, they cue the music.
Yeah.
They have the patriotic, the blue banner waving in the background, and you got Old Glory pretty much sitting there just waving in the amber sunset. If I was a benefactor member who had given $5K or maybe $10K or maybe $20K over the course of a lifetime to these guys, and I watched this play out, I would be sick to my stomach. And I know hundreds of gun owners across Missouri and across Iowa and across Wyoming right now who are livid and asking themselves, why? Why have we given so much money? And if they're not going to fight for us, what are they doing? What are they doing? And we haven't even gun owners. I don't think always, maybe we don't think in terms of the long-term play being pushed by Bloomberg, being pushed by the radical left, George Soros. I know a lot of times I can fall in this trap where I think in terms of next session, the next 2-year cycle, whether it's in Congress or it's in Des Moines or Jeff City or Madison or Cheyenne. These leftists, they think in terms of the next 10 years and the next 20 years.
Yes.
And we're seeing this happen right now. So if this hasn't got you angry enough yet, and if you're not concerned enough yet about red flag gun seizure laws, as Chris described half an hour ago, you've got to hear what's happening right now in Washington State. State.
Let me just jump in here for just a minute. If you guys are watching this in Ohio, we've been talking about this until we're blue in the face as we've fought this, I might say successfully, as today was the last day they could pass this garbage out under this General Assembly. So you guys rock in Ohio. We killed this thing this year, but we have been saying and beating the bush here in Ohio all year long that this is a framework bill. They are desperate to get any version of this passed that they possibly can. And you can go back and look at videos that we have shot here back in March and in April. I'll say this exact quote. This is a framework bill so that they can get this original version passed in whatever version they can get, and so that they can expand on it in any future legislature. God forbid a school shooting ever happen here in Ohio, but any crisis that comes up in the future, they can build off of the framework they passed. Aaron, take it away about Washington State.
Washington State passed this bill in 2016. So I said 10 years, think 2, okay? We're not talking about a 10-year build up here, think 2 years. So late last week, the news broke in Washington State that Bloomberg-funded activists, some of the survivors of previous shootings, that means David Hogg and idiots like that, the ACLU and all these other stakeholders who hate freedom, hate gun owners, hate the Second Amendment, have convened together to discuss how can we improve, how can we expand protections under our red flag gun seizure law. And they're literally talking about now taking and applying red flag gun seizure ordinances to juveniles.
Insane, man.
To juveniles. But listen to what this means.
Yeah, it gets worse.
Johnny's 10 years old, all right? Johnny doesn't own an AR-15. He doesn't have a Glock 9. He doesn't have a BB gun. He doesn't have a BB gun. I'm sure he can't in Washington State. No way. So he has no guns. So what does it matter then? Why we hit him with a red flag? Because they want to come to your home. They want to come to your home and take your guns away because Johnny, they think, may be a threat. And they literally said some of the concerns they have can be based on aggressive staring. Aggressive staring.
Give him a pill for that. Give him a shot.
I stared at the clock aggressively every day at 2:45, waiting to get the hell out.
I was staring aggressively at some legislators today as they were watering down a pro-gun bill.
Yes.
So aggressive staring from your 10-year-old, literally your 8-year-old, your 6-year-old, whatever. If your 14-year-old gets involved in a fight because somebody attacks him in a hallway, guys, this happens every single day in public schools in every single state. Fights, gang violence, all kinds of serious crime. If your child fights back, if somebody attacks his sister in the parking lot, maybe I'm a chauvinist, but I would go and fight to defend somebody who's being attacked. That would constitute him being a threat to himself or somebody else. And they're going to pass this and apply it to the parents. And in Washington, they have a father who they're trying to get him to voluntarily comply and voluntarily surrender his firearms. And they're outraged. They're not outraged. They're baffled. They're shocked that a law-abiding American man would not want to voluntarily surrender every gun he has. They're angry. He won't let them come into his home, and search it for the firearms. And so now they're going to readjust the red flag bill to allow for exactly that. And if you're not angry enough yet, listen to this. They said once this is done, once this happens, parents will have to choose between keeping their firearms in their home and their kids in their home.
Did you hear that? Say that again.
Insane.
If they apply it to your children, they will make you choose their own words. This is their own talking points. They will make you choose between keeping your firearms in your home and your children in your home.
Take the kids. Take the kids away.
They're going to do.
So
this is public.
So literally, what do you want more? Do you want your Second Amendment freedoms, or do you want custody of your children? That's the ludicrous. That's where they want to go with this stuff. That's why we call this a framework bill. They want to build off of that. They want to pass gun control by declaration rather than adjudication. And once that wall is torn down, the barrier for freedom that is due process, Katie, bar the door, because all this stuff is coming right through it.
Yep.
We saw it today.
You would think that somebody like Chris Cox would understand that.
Nah.
Yes.
No.
We saw it today. We saw it today. Bill drafts talking about hate speech being used as evidentiary grounds in a red flag gun seizure hearing.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine, Tori Strago over here, just said, he goes, I say conservative things and anti-Islam things on Facebook all the time. I'm quite sure they'll use that to red flag me and take my guns.
Yes.
That's exactly what we're talking about. They absolutely will.
You marry up hate speech issues, whatever that means. You marry up a hate speech prosecutor with a red flag gun seizure law in your state, and you can kiss your butt goodbye.
Yep.
That's it.
You're done because everybody here sees the way culture is trending, right? We look back 20 years ago and we think of how our childhoods were, or if you're older than that, maybe you got to look back a little further than that. But look where we are now, and then we kind of project the last 10, 15, 20 years into the future. We look ahead 40 years into the future for when our kids are old and adults and having kids of their own. This is very, very, very bad. In every sense of the word.
And it's why we need the most, for the love of God, if there was ever a need for the NRA to wade in heavy, if there was ever a need for them to bring all of their political guns to bear, if there was ever a need for the NRA to spend a portion of their $400 million plus budget to help stop this effort, whether it's in Congress or state capitals, if there was ever a time that we need them to stand up there and throw down, it's now.
What the hell are they doing with $400 million a year that we're seeing bump stocks get stricken down? We're seeing fixed NICS expansions. We are seeing red flags, endorsements here and advocacy. Where the hell is the money going, that $400 million a year, if it's not going to try to expand? If it's not going to try to expand national reciprocity, where's it going?
Yeah.
I think we know where it's going. I think Ben has given me some numbers earlier
salaries
today. Ben, you gave me some numbers, didn't you, on old Mr. LaPierre and what he's getting out of this every year. Look, we don't begrudge someone getting paid.
Don't tell me this is going to make me feel uncomfortable.
How many millions?
Which part? Before we even say it, we don't begrudge someone getting paid, but you got to do the job. You got to do the job. Ben, what did you say he's getting paid?
Wayne LaPierre. I can hardly make the words come out of my mouth. $5.1 million.
$5 million, man.
What's the basic membership cost? I wonder what, $25, $30. What's $5.1 million divided by $30? How many people are giving memberships to fund that portion alone? Do it. I'm curious.
And that's what we know of. That's what we know of, right? 5.1 million,
that was 2015, I think you said, right? But that was 2015. Yeah. So that was 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago. So who knows? Who knows what's going on with this right now? I mean, I know we pulled some other numbers because I was curious about how many, Chris. What is it?
If a membership is $30, here's the number right here: 170,000 people.
Dear Lord,
have to give up.
170,000 Americans have to buy a membership to pay Wayne LaPierre's salary.
How many for Chris Cox? That's what I really want to know about. How many for Chris
I'm
Cox?
not sure we have numbers on that. It was certainly in the low millions range. I mean, Marion Hammer alone, Marion Hammer, past president, the Hammer down there in Florida, where all of this got its momentum this year because 67 A-rated Republicans were given a green light.
Yeah.
Given a green light to pass it. They passed it this year. Marion Hammer, $203,000. $203,000 to stand back and say, all right, you guys can do whatever the heck you want. And, the anger that I have at the state level is intense because it should be in D.C. as well. But because what they do in Florida, what they do in Iowa, what they do anywhere echoes in other states.
Right.
I know Ben told me this, that this year in Minnesota, they had lawmakers saying, well, why shouldn't we expand some of these? Senator Ron Latz talking about why can't we expand red flags here to Minnesota after he's a Democrat.
Here this year, John Kasich in his presser, when he was trying to force the legislature to pass this stuff, he's like, we need to get this passed here so that we can send a big message across America that a red state, Ohio, a red state, passed this into law.
That's what they asked. That's what they asked in Minnesota verbatim. If they can do it in red Florida, why can't we do it here in blue? Purple, whatever, blue. Well, now it's all blue. In blue, Minnesota. So, like I say, it's what we do in state capitals echoes across the. I think of that stupid quote from what was that movie with Russell Crowe? What you do in life echoes in eternity, and what they did not do in Tallahassee echoes in Des Moines.
Yep.
And it's echoing in Columbus. And it's echoing in St. Paul. And it's echoing in Cheyenne. And I guarantee it's echoing in your state capital, wherever you're watching this video at. And for that, 170,000 people pay a basic membership every year just for Wayne. Plus you've got Cox. Plus you've got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of guys who are at the 300,000 level plus.
Oh, it's more than that.
More that, or whatever.
It's like $500 or $600,000.
If that's not DC swamp crap, I don't know what is. You walk around. I mean, come on. Anybody can strap on a suit. They have professional copywriters tell them exactly what to say. You saw it in Chris Cox's video here. You got your American flag type thing waving. You got your patriotic music playing. They're using all this mumbo jumbo lingo, and they're getting paid hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to stand up there and use talking points that are written for them. Meanwhile, at $5 million, you're just waltzing around DC, glad handing anti-gun politicians, and it just disgusts me. I just can't stand it.
When red flags came knocking at the door of Ohio, our membership went to war to stop this. We know Ohio gun owners, members and supporters of Ohio gun owners know that the gun control builds on each and every state. And our membership went to war. They said, hell no, in no way, shape, or form are we going to roll over and let Ohio become the next state to do that. That is what stopped red flags this year in Ohio. And I will also add that the NRA never came in and opposed this thing at all. They didn't offer testimony.
It's crazy.
They weren't there the day of. Nobody was there to block it except the members and supporters of Ohio gun owners. And that's why I love those people, our people. They are my closest friends in this state.
Well, what we've got over here, guys, in Kennesaw, we're running some of the back end operations over here. We have the entire video again of Chris Cox from the NRA A lot of y'all are asking for it. I see it on Georgia. We have the entire video of Chris Cox expressing the NRA's support for these red flag laws. So go ahead and play it. We have it right here, guys. It's going to play right now.
We need to stop dangerous people before they act. So Congress should provide funding for states to adopt risk protection orders. This can help prevent violent behavior before it turns into a tragedy. These laws allow a court to intervene and temporarily remove firearms when a person threatens violence to themselves or others. To be effective and constitutional, they should have strong due process protections and require that the person get treatment. These proposals can be done right now. While they won't solve everything, they will help lead to a broader discussion on how to address a culture of violence in America, which is desperately needed. There will always be evil in this world. That won't change. But we can change our response. We can take action and prevent violence and protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans at the same time. That's what the 5 million men and women of the NRA are committed to do, and we hope you'll join us in getting it done.
There it was again. For those of y'all who haven't seen it, Chris Cox of the NRA on the video expressing their support for red flag gun confiscation laws. There it was.
No
Gun confiscation laws. They are the gun control issue of our, not of our generation perhaps, but maybe. I don't know. They are the issue of the day. This is the focus point that they are zeroing in on. We cannot let this stand.
No.
Go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead, Ben. Well, no, just to recap that video before people are, if you're getting tuned in right now, don't forget these key words: no arrest, no charges, no indictment,
no hearings,
no conviction of anything. Let that culminate in your mind and think about the ramifications of that. No arrest, no indictment, no conviction of anything, and you are disarmed for a year, for 2 years, for 6 months, whatever it is. Don't ever forget that. No conviction.
Well, like we've seen in all of our own states, the deal is done behind closed doors between the politicians and the lobbyists. It happens all the time. Clearly, this is what's happening here with old Wayne. We'll call him $5 million Wayne from now on. $5 million Wayne and Chris Cox. This deal has been done here. We have no issue with the fantastic members of the NRA, the folks who are members of that organ.
Right.
None whatsoever. People are asking about that. We have no problem with that. It's the leadership. It's the leadership of the NRA here that is shoving this stuff down your throats. So there's a little debate over here on the Minnesota Gun Rights page. Some people are saying defund the NRA. Others are saying, well, maybe we shouldn't defund the NRA. It's the leadership that's the problem. Well, I'll tell you what, nothing speaks louder to somebody like Wayne LaPierre, who needs to maintain his $5 million lifestyle, than all of a sudden millions of American gun owners standing up and saying, no red flags, no compromise, stop this crap, get back on the straight and narrow and fight for no compromise in Congress and in these states. That might be enough to turn them around. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, people here on the Minnesota Gun Rights page are ticked off. A lot of them are saying, I'm canceling my NRA membership. I'm done until they change course. And maybe that's what needs to happen here until Chris Cox turns around and goes, maybe it was a terrible, terrible choice for me to betray all the members of the NRA and push for red flags. The NRA is now changing course, and we're going to oppose red flags. That's the only way to get this job done, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. We would love nothing more than to watch them do a complete 180-degree about face on this issue, because, my kid's future depends on it. So if we can right their ship and get it opposed to this stuff again, that is ultimately what we would love to see here. I mean, that would be awesome.
And what I'm afraid is going to happen now, with Nancy Pelosi about to take the gavel, with a harsh radically mobilized, crazed anti-gun caucus in Washington, D.C., now controlling the House of Representatives. What I'm afraid is going to happen instead is the email machine is going to crank up and the direct mail machine is going to crank up.
Yep.
And gun owners across the nation are going to be told, oh my gosh, oh heavens, oh help us. We need your $20. We need your $100. We need your $5,000. We need your money to stop Nancy Pelosi's war on your gun rights. And the wheel just keeps on turning. So we needed to have your money to stop Obama. They got it. They needed to have our money to stop Hillary Clinton becoming president. They got it. They needed to have our money to help advance pro-gun bills. Nothing. Crickets.
Nothing,
Crickets. And instead of that, it's red flags, fixed nicks, and bump stocks. And now, oh my goodness, we're right back into the help us stop Nancy Pelosi, and we're right back in it again. And this is the game. This is the swamp fundraising game in Washington, D.C., and that's where it's going to happen. And look, I don't think anybody here begrudges any efforts to raise funds to for a cause. In this case, fight for guns. We all need to raise funds to fight for gun rights. But I can give you a snapshot. I can give you a snapshot of what some of the state groups here do with the cash we raised. I can't speak all the numbers verbatim, but I know that Patrick Parsons in Georgia spent 6 figures plus making sure that radical socialist Stacey Abrams did not become governor by informing gun owners where she stands and exposing her radical agenda.
That was well done.
That's a fact. And the NRA came in at the last second and piggyback. It was over at that point.
I can say for a fact that in Ohio, Chris's membership spent probably damn near 6 figures as well as a new organization stopping John Kasich's radical attack on the Second Amendment. I can say with certainty that in Iowa, the members of Iowa gun owners shelled out over $150,000 in just 6 weeks to take out people like Mike Gronstall, Steve Sodders, and gut the anti-gun Senate leadership that was controlled at that time by anti-gun Democrats. I can tell you for a fact that the members of Wyoming gun owners and the money that they gave to WIGO was used to hammer through perhaps the nation's leading Stand Your Ground law bill just 6 months ago in March of 2018. I can tell you for a fact that when the Missouri Firearms Coalition raises money from their members, they use that to hammer through what was, at that time, in late 2016, the largest gun rights bill at the state level in American history.
Man.
Stand Your Ground law, constitutional carry, castle doctrine cleanup, lifetime permits, and on it goes. So the organizations here deliver the goods.
Hey, don't leave Minnesota gun rights out of there. The members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights have stopped every single gun control bill that has come forward in the last 5 years. They shut it down in 2013. They shut it down in 2016, 2015. They shut it down last year in 2018 when they were poised to pass red flags, gun seizures, and universal background checks. The members and supporters of MGR said, screw the political class, screw these compromise organizations. We're going to shut it down, and they did themselves.
My bad. My mea culpa to them. I was up there and helped. I was doing lit drop operations, for heaven's sakes, in Minnesota, so I should have known that, and my bad to the members of Minnesota Gun Rights. Yeah. These organizations deliver. Yes. These organizations fight like dogs. These organizations will attack anybody in any party, in anywhere, who tries to cut a deal that attacks gun owners. And this is why it's unconscionable to us, to me, to all 4 of us, I know that, to consider that they would take this kind of cash and do nothing more than that to pass red flag gun seizures. Guys, that's the whole story. That's the whole ball game.